yet again. Possibility that I will end up in tears. Loved. All for yearn. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today. And for this video, we are going to be talking about my 2026 TBR. Alright, so before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what is one book you are so determined you will get read this year. As per usual, I have way too many books I am trying to get read this year. If book clubs and year-long reading challenges weren't enough, I'm also doing my 10 books for the year list yet again. There's a variety of reasons these books are on the list. They're ones that either I've owned for far too long without having read, they're continuations in series I really enjoyed, and then they're picks that my friends just want to force on me. So let's go ahead and start from the top with A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I got this one from a Barnes & Noble closing sale in like 2020. Still have yet to get it read, mostly because I'm pretty sure this book is going to make me cry. I believe this is following a boy whose mother has recently passed from cancer, and this monster shows up and helps him with his grief. This is actually the illustrated edition, which I imagine will add to both the impact of the story and the possibility that I will end up in tears. I've literally heard only phenomenal things about this, so I need to read it. I just keep scaring myself basically. So I figure if I put it on this list, hopefully it'll finally happen. At that same closing sale actually was Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. This has been on like 3 series priorities lists I've made now, and obviously has yet to get read. It's supposed to be kind of a mix between Phantom of the Opera meets like Moulin Rouge, I believe, where we're following this woman who enters into this magical competition. I think the love interests are one of her fellow competitors, but also one of the judges. That sounds right. I also just like love the aesthetic of this story. In pages, the map, the little detailing. I mean, this book is very pretty. I heard a lot of positive things about the first book, not so much about the second book. I honestly didn't hear a ton about the sequel in general, but I'm hoping that I will enjoy this one and hopefully the second as well. It is a YA, and I have been pulling away from YA fantasies more, but I'm hopeful. Then we have Any Rogue Will Do by Bethany Bennett. This is the first in the Misfits of Mayfair series. I read the third one of this series, I think it was 2 years ago, for a Buns N' Roses TBR jar, and really ended up enjoying it. Bethany Bennett was actually my first historical romance that I loved. So I wanted to go back and read the prior ones in the series. This one I believe is a engagement of convenience mixed with enemies to lovers. Like, I think somehow these two characters end up interacting at one point, and whatever happens ends up impacting her image. But then there's this man who keeps trying to like manipulate her into getting engaged, and so she ends up utilizing him, the man who ruined her image, to try and salvage it a little bit and also protect herself from this other suitor. If I remember correctly, we did see these characters in the third book, and I'm pretty sure he might be a Scotsman, so might see a mighty hot Scot and a kilt. That'd be nice. I really enjoyed this author's character work. I really liked the way she had very empowered female heroines, and she definitely does spice very well. So I'm really looking forward to reading more from her. Very similar circumstance with The Love Remedy by Elizabeth Everett. So I read this one for last year's Buns N' Roses. Well, not this one. I read the second in this series and loved it. So of course, whenever I went to the event, I had to get my hands on the first one. So in this one, we were following Lucinda Peterson. She has created a perfect formula to treat croup, but of course, it goes missing. And she believes it's at the hands of a rival apothecary. So she ends up turning to a private investigator to help, but gets more than she bargained for. Also loved the character work, loved the spice, loved the bringing up of topics in historical romance that I feel like do not get discussed often, especially around women's lives in history. The author's note at the beginning says, like all my books, The Love Remedy is a historical romance with a hefty dose of humor. However, like all my books, it centers the experience of women in a historical context with an eye towards current socio-political events. That right there was a real selling point for me in the second book, so of course I'm very intrigued to see what she does here in this first one. Then I have a book that I was highly anticipating in 2025, but very sadly did not manage to get to. However, I have adored the 2 prior works I've read from this author, and am really, really hoping I love this one too. The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. She does historical horror romances. Like I said, last 2, loved. In this one, I believe, yep, we're set in the 1760s. There is a plague that is sweeping through, and 𝗖cie ends up traveling along with her husband's family to go and stay on this estate to escape from the plague. But once there, ends up meeting 𝗖cie, her husband's cousin, who is troubled by his past. But unfortunately, the two of them end up entangled with the occult, the church, long-kept secrets, and each other. Oh my god, this sounds so up my alley. I'm really annoyed with myself that I didn't read it last year, but I am so excited to get to it. I just gotta make time for it because I know once I start, I'm not gonna want to put it down. Next up is one that I reached the halfway point in this book last year, and I was really enjoying it, but unfortunately, I was going into the D&D readathon and we couldn't count any books that we didn't start in November. So I put down My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen, and it never got picked up again. And I'm bummed because I was actually really enjoying this. We're following Ruth, who is a woman that performs these fake seances. She actually does have a spirit companion. However, that's the only spirit she can communicate with. But after one of these seances, a woman named Agnes actually ends up approaching her mother and essentially purchasing Ruse. But once the two women leave together, Ruse starts to see that things are not quite what they seem, and the relationship she has with Agnes starts to develop in some interesting ways. It also has this very interesting breakdown where we get little excerpts of an interview between who I believe to be Ruse with a doctor, but the names are censored, so I'm not 100% sure on if that's what's happening. Like I said, I was really enjoying this. It just was poor timing, and I had to put it down, and I really want to finish it. Now for these last four, these are actually ones that I let my friends pick because I was having a difficult time really figuring out what else I wanted to add to this list. So starting at the top, 𝗖cie from 𝗖cie. Love her so much. I'll put a link to her in the cards up above and in the description down below. She was so excited, and I must say the book she gave me has me very excited. It's Johannes Cabal the Necromancer, the first in the Johannes Cabal series by Jonathan L. Howard. So it seems we are following this man who actually ended up selling his soul for the secrets to raise the dead, but didn't really go as planned. Now he has actually entered into a deal with Satan to try and turn 100 people to give him their souls, or he'll be damned forever. But he has to do so in the setting of a carnival or like a traveling circus or something like that. It sounds like it's gonna be really entertaining. I can't help but liken it to something like Hazbin's Hotel, so I'm really hoping it'll kind of hit on the same note. It sounds like it's gonna be funny, entertaining, and an interesting setup. I do love a good Faustian bargain, so I'm intrigued to see how that ends up working out here. And it's the first in a series, so ding you, 𝗖cie, for making me start a series, but I'm really hoping if I love it, I'll end up reading the rest of it. Next up, my friend Ali actually ended up picking for me The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovolino. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Fun fact, actually, I did add this to my TBR because of the cover, but I thought it was sapphic because it's a female knight. And then when I found out it wasn't, removed it from my TBR without even thinking twice. However, I will admit, since hearing people talk about this, it has intrigued me once again because we are following Gray, yes, who is pledged to protect a mage, Kerr. And I've heard there's like this really great yearning between the two of them, and I'm all for yearn. I believe the two of them end up being tasked in trying to protect this child from, like, I don't know if it's a neighboring kingdom or like an enemy kingdom, but they get put in the middle of this really complicated and ugly situation. By extension, are basically forced to rely on only each other to survive. Obviously, it's not the same, but it's definitely giving me Roy and Risa energy from Full Metal Alchemist, so I'm into that. I'm pretty sure she's making me read this one to tell her if I think she'll like it or not. Next up is my friend Kat, who I think felt bad about the fact that I DNF'd her last book because she was determined to pick something she thought I would enjoy and ended up giving me Don't Let the Forest In by C.J. Drews. This one is a nature horror that I believe is following a trans man who is at like a academy, and I think there's something weird going on with the woods nearby. There's also like a fairy tale element mixed in because I believe one of the main characters is a artist and the other is a writer, and so like the artist keeps bringing to life the monsters from the writer's stories without trying. That sounds right. I've heard a lot of positive things about this one, and the cover is absolutely stunning, so I am really hoping I will enjoy it. And then finally, my friend Molly picked a nonfiction book for me, and this one I don't know anything beyond the title, and you'll understand why when I tell you the title. The Real Valkyrie by Nancy Mary Brown, The Hidden History of Viking Warrior Women. Literally all I needed to know. Thanks, Mal. This sounds like it's going to be so interesting and such a good time. It's right up my alley. I can't wait. So that is it for my 10 books I want to get read for the year. However, I do still have numerous other books I gotta try and get in for my other year-long reading challenges. So first up is the Reddit Fantasy Bingo board. This actually starts in April, so I have until March 31st to finish out last year's board, and I only have 3 spots left. So starting at the top is published in the 80s, but hard mode is by an author of color. And initially I was looking at doing something by Octavia E. Butler. However, I took a gander through the recommendations for this one and ended up stumbling upon Hadriana and All My Dreams by Renee Depestre. This is French and I took Spanish, so I'm not 100% sure on how you pronounce this, I'm sorry. But this is set in 1938, taking place during Carnival in Haiti, where we are following Hadriana, who is supposed to be getting married to this very influential boy, but the morning before her wedding ends up drinking something and it turns her into a zombie. Plus, it is on the shorter side, so I mean, magical realism, horror mixed together. I'm very intrigued about this one. I did see that there's also a graphic novel version, so I'm really intrigued to read the novel and then try the graphic novel version to see how it compares, because this definitely sounds like a story that would come across great in that format. After that is high fashion. Hard mode is where like one of the main characters are the ones who is doing something magical with clothing, and I did see that apparently the male character in Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli would work for this. I'm not 100% sure on like how that works into the story, because I know this is following Rune, who is a witch, and I think somehow there's like a marriage of convenience with Gideon, who is a witch hunter. I don't know where the like clothing magic element comes in, but I'm intrigued to see how it works, and I am hoping to maybe get this one read this month. Lastly is Elves and or Dwarves, and sadly, like, I don't think this would count, technically speaking. I don't know, maybe? Like, I guess it depends on who you consider a main character. But I'm currently planning to read The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, the first in the Lord of the Rings series. I'm actually going to be reading the entirety of this series with my book club over on my Patreon. So if you are intrigued and want to join us, I will have a link to my Patreon in the description down below. I'm really apprehensively excited to try this out. I'm hoping I will enjoy it. I'm nervous about this author's writing, but I'm also so excited to try. So that is it for the fantasy bingo board, but I also have the horror bingo board. This one is hosted by Wicked Reading. I really enjoyed doing it last year, and I have actually made a fair amount of progress onto it already in 2025. So I have until October in 2026 to finish it out, but I am trying to block out the entire board, and I do clearly still have my work cut out for me. Starting at the top left corner, but second row over, to read a book with mixed media. Hard mode is that there are at least 3 or more formats, and I'm currently planning to read We Used to Live Here by, oh shoot, who wrote this? The name is escaping me. It'll be up here. But this is a thriller that I've heard literally like only 5-star reviews of, and I gotta admit, I'm very intrigued, so I want to officially try this. Then there is indie/self-pub, and the hard mode is it is a new to you author. I'm hoping to try and read Iron Hollow by Tim McGregor. This is a Frankenstein retelling, and I believe it's available on Kobo Plus, so it makes it very easy for me to get my hands on it. Thank you, Sam, for moving my tripod. Next up is paranormal, but hard mode is where one of the main characters is like a paranormal investigator or some sort of paranormal hunter. I'm planning to go for The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James. I don't know what it was. I recently saw some reviews for like one of her newer books, and it's like reinvigorated my interest in this author, so I'm really hoping to get around to this one. Then for the last one on this row, stolen from another TBR, hard mode is that it's another horror bingo TBR. I am going to be reading The Possession of Alba Diaz for this one, thanks to Destiny, one of my patrons. I'm so glad she gave me the excuse to slide this into this board. Next up, we have vampires, but hard mode is that it's set during the modern day, and I'm still looking at So Thirsty by Rachel McAdams. McAdams? Why was that the name that came out? Rachel Harrison. This author is 3 for 3 on 4.5 to 5-star reads, but I've heard mostly mixed things about this one. Like, I think majority of the negative reviews I've read for her stuff has been this book. So I am a little nervous, but it perfectly fits the prompt. So I need to get it read. Then there is water setting. Hard mode is on or in water for majority of the story, and currently I am still looking at They Bloom at Night by Trang Tran Tron. But if you do have any recommendations for this one, please let me know in the comments down below. Then for liminal spaces, I was planning planning in October to read The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig for this one. Hard mode is that it has an even number of pages, which this version does. I think everybody is planning to read this one for the prompt, actually. I didn't make time for it. I need to figure out when to do that again. Then we have a library book. Hard mode's just to return it on time. Honestly, I utilize my library a lot. This one is not going to be hard for me. Returning it on time might be hard. I usually recheck out my books numerous times. Then we have Picked by Chance. Hard mode is that there's at least 10 options. This will be like when I need a mood read or something and I don't want to decide for myself. Then we have LGBT plus rep. Hard mode is that the main character is queer and the story revolves around queer themes. I can already say My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen would work for this. In fact, this is what I was planning to use already. Just gonna stick with it. Then we have a book that is recommended to you, but hard mode is out of your comfort zone. I am still planning to read The Long Walk by Stephen King or Richard Brenner. I think that's the pen name he used when he initially published this. Josh's dad has told me so many times I need to read this book, and he was very happy when I told him it was on my TBR for this. Then there is Plant/Eco/Nature, and hard mode is the cover has nature on it, so I'm actually hoping to utilize Don't Let the Forest In for this one. It would work so perfectly. May as well slide it in. Next is a book where the title includes a verb, and hard mode is a backlist book. I am sticking with My Soul to Keep by Tanana Reeve Du, especially since I bought this from Kobo Plus. I want the motivation to actually read it. Those deals, man, they are tempting. It is hard to resist those babies. Then we have a book that has an animal on the cover, but hard mode is that it is longer than the last book you read, so I have to be strategic with this one. I have Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison here. It's obviously going to depend because this book is not very long. Then for a one-word title, but hard mode with a colorful cover, I am still looking at Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is not the most colorful cover, but it definitely has more color than plenty of the other books on this TBR. And last but certainly not least is The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve Du for social commentary where an author is part of a marginalized group. I really want the excuse to read this one because it's a chunky boy, so I feel like I will need the extra push by utilizing it for something like this. Everything I've heard about this sounds phenomenal, and I'm really excited to read it. Or I don't know if excited is the right word. I'm really hopeful it will be just as poignant and impactful as I'm thinking it's going to be. So, 10 books clearly was not enough. I had to add so many other books that I need to try and get read in 2026. Most of these I don't even have the full year to read. What can I say? I enjoy a good challenge. Alright, so that's officially it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's leave a sunflower emoji in the comments. I have links to all my socials as well as a few ways you could support me down in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!